Bienvenido, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Tropical Bets Ahora. I'm your host, Rich Quinones, and if you guys are just tuning in for the first time, welcome, 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 and thank you very much. Gracias por tu tiempo. We appreciate your time, and this is a very fast-paced weekly sports betting gambling show. We kind of cater around Latin, Central, South American markets, Caribbean markets, also our wonderful friends tuning in Bermuda. Have to give them a special shout out as always, tuning in on channel 82 in Bermuda. Don't forget to give them a follow. Pretty easy to log on to channel 82. You'll see the graphic right below, and you also see it in the show notes. All the information to follow us on social media will be right at your fingertips. But as I mentioned, we've got a couple of really interesting plays for this weekend. Very busy in the world of sports. Obviously, on the pitch, we've got some boxing plays that I want to get into, and we always want to encourage you guys. The show itself, and we can't preface this enough. Just like my show in the States, Back Your Play, the show is for entertainment purposes only. We try to give you a little insight, a little knowledge, entertainment value. There's no guarantees when it comes to the world of sports gambling and betting, just like we know that there are no guarantees in life. But as I always like to preface and say, first and foremost, the show is for entertainment purposes. Have a little fun, always about bankroll, always about managing your money. And as I said, if you ever have a problem when it comes to sports betting or gambling, obviously 1-800-GAMBLER, responsible gaming is paramount. All right. So, with that being said, let's start on the pitch. Let's start on the pitch. Premier League, a very busy weekend. Liverpool and Everton. Now, listen, currently, right now, Liverpool, 12 points. They lie in first position, right? So the last time they were out, they triumphed 3-2 against Atletico de Madrid, UEFA Champions League. Everton has won 7 points to date. Right now, they placed in sixth position. Now, the last time these two teams met on the pitch, okay, it ended with Liverpool winning 1-0. Very defensive struggle. Everton had some chances late in that game, 85th, 86th, 87th minute. It was a low scoring affair. What are we looking for? Well, Liverpool have been excellent when it comes to playing on their home turf, as we like to say in the States, right? Their home pitch, especially against local rivals. They've only lost one time out of their last 28. So they're strong at home. With that being said, Everton has won six of their last 11 away matches in the EPL. Despite that, the Reds have looked professional across the opening months. I think they can win their opening five fixtures for just a third time, and I believe it starts Saturday. Liverpool has an advantage in duels against Everton, 56 wins in 119 games. Everton has 25 victories. Now, what stands out in this one, an English league competition, 212 matches between these two clubs. Liverpool winning 83, 70 draws. That's important. Bookmark that for a moment. And then 59 wins for Everton. I think Liverpool's got to push the pace. They got to get something out of their midfield. They have to take advantage of free kicks, also their corners. I don't like this game to be a high scoring one. And if you look at Betway, one of the plays, a sneaky play here, is under 2.5 goals. So what that is telling you, if you believe this will be a 1-1, 1-0 type of game or a draw, it'll sit under 2.5 goals. If you believe these teams can score a bunch, then you'd be inclined to play the over 2.5. So if you think this is going to be a 3-0 game, a 2-2 draw, a 4-1 game, we've seen some bad matches of late, right? Then obviously that hits the over. But I'm going to stick with the under of 2.5. I think this is a low scoring game. I can see this being a draw. I can also see this being a 1-0 type of game. Now, we call these player props. The player, in this case, the soccer players, the football players on the pitch, are they going to get an assist? Are they going to get a goal? Are they going to net a goal, I should say? So Cody Gapko to score or assist in a goal at odds 225 with Betway. The winger forward, I think he's going to have a hand in this one. I think he has an assist or a goal in this one. I think that's path to victory for Liverpool as they triumph in this one. And the Reds are minus 210. So that tells you right there who the favorite is in this one. If it's plus 210, you're going to get a little more value for your bet because now you're playing the underdog. All right. Match number 2. West Ham versus Crystal Palace. Okay, we love pressure, right? I don't care in the States, in the Caribbean. I don't care where we're at. We love pressure with these coaches on the hot seat, do we not? So I'll give you my next play. West Ham, Crystal Palace. Graham Porter is feeling the heat. It is definitely Hase Color for this West Ham's head coach. He's got to respond against Crystal Palace. I'm not talking about a moral victory with a draw. I'm talking about an outright win on the pitch. They've already lost 2 London Stadium derbies this term. And I think, listen, if you go from their arrogant score of 8-1, they haven't really done anything special defensively. Look, something needs to change. They have to play much better on defense, allowing 3 goals in 3 of their 4 matches so far this season. The Eagles have had an unbelievable run stretch, right? They really look to continue their unbeaten run or form, stretching to 16 games in all competitors in what has been a very busy and impressive start to the season. Now, the pressure right here. I don't believe Porter is going to change the lineups. I think he's just going to play it close to the vest. I think they're going to have to take some chances late in this game. But with that being said, because the pressure now, reports are coming out that Slaven Biliak might be a replacement for Porter if another loss ensues. To me, that puts, that's sometimes desperation mode, and you do some things out of the ordinary. But I think Porter, he's a pro's pro. It just hasn't worked out in this spot right now with West Ham being their head coach. Crystal Palace has not lost since April. So they've had plenty of, a lot of draws within that period. Listen, I think with the pressure on Porter, I think West Ham struggling a little bit. They can't put the ball in the net. I like Crystal Palace in this one. The under 2.5 goals in this one, by the way, is 10-1, but I like Crystal Palace at plus 145. So let's just say, for instance, at plus 150, you bet 100, you win 150. You bet, 10 in this one, you're going to win back 14.50. So you're going to net $24. So it's a nice, small, little kind of simple play that we like in this one. Again, we're just warming up this edition of Tropikal Bets Ahora. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. We always want you guys to also get social with us. It's pretty easy to do. You can follow along on my IG, on my X, at Rich Q on Q, TikTok, if you choose so, Rich Q on the mic, and then, of course, the YouTube channel, Caribbean Deportes Talk, or at Rich Quinones, where I have a lot of my stateside content, my On Q show, and my other sports gambling show, Back Your Play, that focuses a lot on what's going on in the States. So when we say football, not soccer, we're talking about the NFL, which, oh, by the way, we're already in week 3 in the NFL. But back to the pitch, as we like to say, for our true football fans. All right, here's another play for you guys. Here's a little bonus play, right? Arsenal, Man City, and they're going to lock horns. And I think, to me, it's all about the men protecting the net. And in this case, for Arsenal, David Raya. Now, these numbers are staggering. He's been on the pitch for a total of over 12,000 minutes. He's tallied 372 saves so far in his pro soccer career. He's an unbelievable keeper from España. So he's had 501 shots sent in his direction in 136 starts. His goals allowed per 90 minutes a match, 0.97, 132 goals conceded. He holds a save percentage right around 75%, 76 clip, which is outstanding. 71, 37, 28 mark in his career as a keeper. That's pretty good win-loss percentage. He's accumulated 52 clean sheets, which gives him right around a 38% clean sheet percentage, meaning nothing's getting through on the last line of defense. Now, I've got some concerns surrounding the Gunners in the final third of the field, but I'm going to roll with Man City, pardon me. I'm going to roll with Man City in this one. And the only reason I do that, I give you these great stats on Arsenal and David Raya, and nothing gets by him, because the points, to me, the odds in this one, they're too juicy. Plus 291. So we talked a little bit about that plus 150. Now all of a sudden you're laying 10, you're winning back almost $30. You're getting paid 40 something odd dollars. You lay 100 if you want to hang your hat, you're winning almost 291. You're getting paid out close to $400. It's just too juicy for Q to just say, hey, we're just gonna, we're gonna ignore that one. Some of my games I call look but don't touch type of games, right? Look but don't touch type of games. But this one, I gave you some great stats. And if you believe that Arsenal is going to pitch the shutout because you're a big backer in Raya, then obviously, you're looking at them being a heavy dog. You're not going to get a lot of value for the bet. So I tease you, I set you up with these great stats, but then all of a sudden I do that 180. And that's the beauty of sports betting and gambling, because sometimes you do have to throw certain stats and trends out the window, but you want to educate yourself with that. All right, no plays in hoops, no plays in baseball, but I want to talk a little boxing with you guys for a moment. And as always, bienvenido, our friends tuning in on channel 82 in gorgeous Bermuda. I want to talk a little sweet science with you over the next portion of the show to give you some plays in that one. There's some good fights Friday, Saturday, this weekend in Venezuela. Leonardo Sanchez versus Victor Casado. Friday night in Venezuela. That's 10 rounds in welterweight action. Now, I saw pick 'em on various books and online platforms early as Friday morning. I think that changes. And Sanchez, to me, you might have to do a little research, should be the favorite in this one, probably around minus 250 or so. Kazada being a heavy dog. So if you get some positive value for Kazada, say at plus 350, we talked about the football matches, plus 291. I mentioned Man City. So if you get a fighter around plus 350, he's a big dog. Now, typically in championship fights, you're inclined to take the underdog because it's a better payout, a better payday. But I think Kazada plus 350 or higher, you take a flyer on him and see what it's worth. If we look inside the numbers, the tail of the tape, Sanchez is 28 years old, has a wonderful mark of 18-1-1, 13 knockouts. He's got ridiculous KO power and rate, 20 bouts, 81 rounds, 72 knockout percentage. So he's knocking guys out left and right, but you also have to look at the level of competition. Kazada comes in this one a modest 8-3-3 mark, 31 years old in Mexico. So the Mexican is going to come straight forward. He's going to come straight forward because that's how they fight, crouch down style, straightforward. He's 1-2-1 over his last 4 bouts. This is a step up. So he's stepping up in competition. Hence, that's why he's such a dog in this one. Now, I will also add that, Quezada does not possess a ton of power like Sanchez has. Early rounds are going to be the key. So if you're looking at value and you think Sanchez can be at a plus number to get a knockout rounds 1-4, grab it. If you've watched, Quezada and you have film on him and you look at Sanchez and you're like, hey, well, this guy's kind of durable. He's not going to get knocked out. I know he's only fought 13, 14 times in his career. I think he's going to make this an ugly fight. I think Sanchez might be overconfident. He might give up a couple rounds. This might go to distance. You're going to get positive value. Quezada's not going to win the fight. Sanchez will win the fight. And the reason I bring that up is early rounds are going to be the key. So if it's a close fight, Sanchez's backyard of Venezuela likely means he's going to get the decision in his favor. And that's something to always watch with these fights when they're in Latin, Central, and South America. Because you got the A side, the favorite, you got the B side, the underdog, right? The journeyman boxer, the gatekeeper, the guy that basically is filling out the card. That's important to watch. So see if you can get some updated odds right up to fight time. Right up to fight time. All right. A wonderful card on the zone in the States, Friday night in Detroit. There's a female attraction, Kay Scott versus Olivia Curry, which I'm going to get into. They're part of the undercard, Brandon Moore versus DeAndre Savage, which is a heavyweight clash. Let's go with the main event first, and then we'll go second with the co-main feature in this one. Moore, big time heavyweight. Obviously, he's a big time favorite in this one, minus 833. So I'm basically laying 833 to win back a little bit of money, right? Savage is the huge dog at plus 500. So again, we like those meaty, juicy, plus value type of lines. That because it's a huge step up for Savage against an 8-1 fighter. Moore's won 4 straight. He's the IBF USBA heavyweight champ. He's won that strap. He got the 5th round TD win over Stanley Wright back in June. Moore has a modest, 18-1 record. I think it's a good record, but he's also looking to keep making a name for himself. He's got the 10 KOs, his 1 KO loss, 20 bouts, 78 rounds, 55% knockout rate. Savage sits with a mark of 10-0 with 10 knockouts, 12 bouts, 16 rounds, right? 100% KO rate. He's 34. Moore's 31. Moore's faced a stiffer competition. Savage comes in 6'3", Moore at 6'6". Moore wants respect. He's looking at this fight. I've been absent from the top 15 for all these 4 sanctioning bodies. The jab's going to be the key. We rarely see it in a heavyweight division, but I think Moore's going to try to walk down Savage. I'm telling you right now, if you can get Moore with a stoppage between rounds 3 and 6 in this one, I grab it. Now, if you really want to be bold, if you are really saying to yourself, I'm going to think outside the box, and I have a feeling that, maybe this can go the distance. And it's tough sometimes because you have fights where fighters are just trying to survive. And I'm not saying that's the case with Savage, but DeAndre Savage does not have the type of pedigree that Brandon Moore has. I mean, that's just the reality of it, right? Savage, as I mentioned, he comes in 10-0. He resides in Nevada. He fights out of Michigan. If you look at some of the fights that he's won, a lot of the fights have been in Colombia, right? And then he had a no contest against Keyshawn Jackson back in 2024, who was 1-5-1. He had that fight in the States. He had to go over to Buenos Aires. He fought in Mexico. He had one other no contest because he got a little too rough in there against Christopher Garza. He was suspended one day when fighting Garza, injured unintentionally and unable to continue. So that tells you he's kind of going to make it a rough fight. It might not be a clean fight. He might keep away from that jab and that power of Moore, which can frustrate Moore, which means now you get through a couple of those first rounds, second, third, fourth. Now you're like, okay, this is kind of a snooze fest. Moore is just throwing the jab, pepper, and he's scoring. But hey, here we go. Savage comes in and out. Maybe he steals a round or two. Now, all of a sudden, Moore's got to go for that knockout in the 7th, the 8th, the 9th. Maybe he got caught a couple times and Savage, wins some of those meat and potatoes rounds in the latter stage of the fight. If you think this fight is going to be a draw, the numbers, the odds on it, if you're confident that you believe it's going to be a draw, it's plus 1,800. Like, think about this. I'm laying 10 on winning 180. I'm laying 100 on winning 1,800. I mean, that kind of tells you that you've got some really good value there. Now, I just pulled up and updated, and the odds again right now, best odds, oddspedia.com, it hasn't moved. It hasn't moved. So you're looking at 90 plus 1% of the money right now is on the favorite. And that typically happens in boxing, which tells you that Moore is the favorite. We thought maybe the line will move a little bit, but if you think this is going to be an ugly kind of contest over 10 rounds, sloppy, a draw means Savage has to win some rounds. If you think it's going to go to decision, you're not going to get as much value. I think in a fight like this, with the knockout power, Moore wants to make a statement, try to grab that knockout 3 to 4 rounds in, and I think you'll be okay. All right, female affair. I mentioned Kay Scott versus Olivia Curry, WBC World Middleweight title. That belt is vacant. That's on the undercard that we just mentioned on the Zone and Detroit. Female fights, 2-minute rounds, so we know the action has to be there. Scott, Australian boxer. You look at her pedigree, her background, amateur who's won multiple world championships, Commonwealth Games, medals across 3 weight divisions. She holds right now the Australian female middleweight titles. Scott's 4-2. And that loss was against Densley Robinson, her last time out back in 2024. This is her second 10-round affair. In that Robinson fight, it went the full 10, and she dropped a unanimous decision. So, tough fight, closer than the scorecard. She's also 41 years of age. So sometimes, again, the legs get a little tired throughout the course of a fight. 2-minute rounds, you might outpunch yourself and tire yourself out. Curry 7-2-1. It's been a mixed bag with her the last 2 bouts. She's gone 0-1-1 after winning 5 straight. So again, she's kind of hit that wall. Now, to be fair, she lost a 10-round affair to Sharicia Green, who's 12-0, which was not even close. She just didn't win a round. Okay, fine. She gets a pass there. You're talking about Green WBO champ. But what is alarming to me when I look at this from an odds standpoint and a betting standpoint, the follow-up bout against Melanie Propovich, which was who 1-1 and coming off a 3-year layoff. She did not take that fight serious. And to me, that's alarming because are you going to have that letdown? Because I'm not willing to risk any type of money on you having a letdown. I'm just not going to do that. That alarms me a little bit when we start to talk about the sport of boxing. I don't care whether it's female or males. I don't get, did you get up for the fight? Was it short notice? Did you train for the fight? You know, she lost that fight against Green and she was probably an 8-month layoff. And then she comes back against a fighter who, let's be honest, really isn't going to put up any type of resistance and had a 3-year layoff. And again, you turn around and you get a draw in that fight. That tells me something right there. And I say all that pretty much to say this. Curry is minus 172. Scott is plus 126. I mean, think about that for a moment. Like, go back and just kind of rehash everything we just said. Scott comes in 4-1. Now, is it because she's coming from Australia and she's taking on a fighter in Curry, who, again, born in Iowa City, resides in Chicago, the fight's in Detroit, coming over the States, might have to give up a couple rounds right away. I'm leaning towards Scott in this one, even at 41 years of age. I'm leaning with Scott in this one because, again, I'm looking at positive numbers. I want that plus 126, that plus 130, that plus 140. If I'm laying 5, 10, 15, $20, I want it to be profitable. Like, why should I risk, 172 to win 100? Why should I risk 17 to win 10 when if I risk 10, I can win 12 and get paid out 22? And that's something you got to look for. Rarely in the fights, in this fight, Scott's going to have to use the jab. She's going to have to move. She's going to have to get through those first several rounds unscathed. I think she's got to bank a couple early rounds. Maybe Curry, a little more laps, doesn't come out as aggressive. She's only got 2 career KOs, right? And I think they both came in 2021. I think one was her pro debut, and the other came against a winless Nina Gallegos, third round of a 4-round affair. So the numbers, the line hasn't changed in this one, but I'm grabbing the favorite in this one at plus 128. And I just think at this point, you look and you say, look, I know I'm the visitor. I might give up a couple rounds. I hate to see this go to a scorecard because we know when you have a fighter coming outside the States to the States, a lot of times they get screwed on the scorecard. You know it, and I know it, right? And it's unfortunate. All right, don't forget, as always, you can tune in to our good friends over at Channel 82 in Bermuda. And also follow me on all social media platforms. On X, IG at Rich Q on Q. You can follow myself on TikTok, Rich Q on the mic. Also, Caribbean Deportes Talk, my YouTube channel. Also, at Rich Quinones, multiple channels where during the week, Monday to Friday, you can catch me live 5 to 6 Eastern time with On Q. And then Back Your Play, it's a gambling show design as well for what's going on stateside. So we did a lot of the Canelo Terrence Crawford preview last week. Obviously, it was a heck of a fight. I thought that fight was won by Crawford after the third and fourth round, just kind of dominated. I didn't see that fight as close as others did. The Canelo backers, and we talk a lot of the NFL football, not the obviously. When we talk football on Tropical Bets Ahora, we're talking about soccer and the pitch. By the way, speaking of boxing, shout out. How about this? Shout out to Bermuda's own Andre Lemby. Number 1 ABO ranking in the welterweight division. He's 12-0. He's got some knockout power, turned pro back in 2020, was born in Hamilton, Bermuda. Southpaw really solidified that position in the rankings, took care of Kendo Castaneda, unanimous decision back in June. Very impressive performance. We're going to try to get him on the show as well. So there's a look at some plays on the pitches, some plays in boxing. Next week, I want to dabble into a little horse racing. I also want to get into some more of Premier League, what's going on. There's a lot of opportunities right now with basketball too in different leagues, whether it's over in the Philippines, Bangkok, Thailand. There's a lot of value in some of these games, whether they're 3-on-3, 5-on-5. There's betting lines out there. There's betting lines out there. You just have to do a little bit of the research. Horse racing, it's a little more due diligence. I like to say a little more of the due diligence with horse racing, because if you're not familiar with how to, place a bet, win, place, show, then you're just wasting your money. And the one thing we always preface is do your research, right? Do a little homework. We try to give you a little insight. There's no guarantees, as I alluded to. I'm just trying to give you a little sprinkle, a little knowledge, a little entertainment, see if you can get some value for your buck, tuning in every week over the course of 30 minutes. Everything is about bankroll, money management. I don't care if you walk into a casino in the Caribbean, overseas, in the States. You don't chase your losses. You don't. If you're going to sit down at the blackjack table, you're playing a $25 table, you're not going to buy in with $200. You're going to need at least $1,000. And if you can hit and run, you can get a good run of cards. You split, you double down, you make your money. You play honest, you play fair, square. You don't chase your losses. You don't lose 3 hands in a row at $25 table and then decide my fourth bet is going to be $75. That's foolish. So point being, it's okay if you lose a couple of these bets. You don't need to, again, chase. Take a step back, regroup, do a little homework. Player props, I believe, can be profitable in basketball. I believe they can be profitable in football in the States. I believe they can be profitable in soccer as well if you do your homework. Because the last thing you want is what we like to call that bad beat, right? And as I mentioned too, when I say look for value, if you have a bunch of apps and a bunch of online entities where you can place and wager, and you're seeing the same contest we're talking about, the same match, the same fight, same game, and A has it at plus 210 for the underdog, and then B has it at plus 215 for the underdog, and then C has it at plus 220 for the underdog. Well, there's value for your buck if you're going with C. There might be some caveats with that, but do a little bit of research. All right, we're going to start wrapping it up on this edition of Tropical Bets Ahora. And as always, I've been your host, Rich Quinones. We greatly appreciate you guys keeping us tuned in over the last 30 minutes. Look, as I alluded to, we are so excited to be coming at you right here on Channel 82 in Bermuda. The folks have just been wonderful. We are just really looking forward to just getting our face and name out there over there in Bermuda. And we always encourage you guys to get social with us. We'll start, as I mentioned, going live with the show as well. And we've got it lined up on X and the YouTube channel and various platforms. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that. And we always encourage you guys to get involved in the conversation. And lastly, as I mentioned, you can always get social with me. Keep it locked in at Rich Q on Q. And of course, TikTok Rich Q on the mic. And the most importantly, again, Tropical Bets Ahora, entertainment purposes only. Okay. Entertainment purposes only. Gambling problem, 1-800-GAMBLER. And then finally, as we get out of here, get social with our good friends over at Channel 82 Bermuda. Give them a follow, and you'll see it in the show notes as well, the link to go onto the website to follow them on all social media platforms. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of TBA Tropical Bets Ahora. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. Have a wonderful sports weekend. Enjoy all the matches, enjoy the fights, enjoy the soccer, enjoy the football if you're in the States. And remember, bet smart, bet wise, try to put a little coin in the pocket, never chase your losses. And I promise you, we'll be back here doing it again next week. Until then, I'm Rich Quinones. Appreciate you guys keeping us tuned in. Gracias por tu tiempo. Hasta luego. Buen día.